Hello everyone, I am Vamshi from EC department. My AT Tech Talk topic is about a sorting classification of parallel rendering. Graphics rendering is notoriously compute intensive, particularly for realistic images and fast updates. Demanding applications such as scientific visualizations, CAD, vehicle simulation, and virtual reality can require hundreds of MFLOPS of performance and global gigabytes per second of memory bandwidths beyond the capabilities of a single processor. For these reasons, parallelism has become a crucial tool for building high performance graphic systems, whether special purpose hardware systems or software systems for general purpose multi computers. We can employ parallelism of various types of many levels. For example, functional parallelism can speed critical calculations, and data parallelism can allow multiple results to be computed at once. Common data parallel approaches are by object and by pixel or portion of the screen. Several taxonomies of parallel rendering algorithms have been. These taxonomies helps in classifying the classifying and understanding systems, but do not lend themselves easily to comparison or analysis. Some rendering systems have been analyzed in isolation. However, these analysis tend to focus on unique system attributes and make comparisons between systems difficult. In this article, we describe a classification scheme that we believe provides a more constructed framework for reasoning about parallel rendering. The scheme is based on what the sort from object coordinates to screen coordinates occur, which we believe is fundamental whenever both geometric processing and rasterization are performed in parallel. This classification scheme supports the analysis of computational and communication costs and encompasses the bulk of current and proposed highly parallel renders both hardware and software. The figure shows graphics pipeline in a fully parallel rendering system. Processors G perform geometric processing. Processors R perform rasterization. Figure 2 shows sort first redistributes raw primitives during geometric processing. Parallel rendering as a sorting problem. Figure 1 shows a simplified version of the standard feedward rendering pipeline adapted for parallel rendering. It consists of two principal parts: geometry processing and rasterization. In this article, we target the rendering rates high enough that both geometric processing and rasterization must be performed in parallel. We say such systems are fully parallel. Geometry processing usually is parallelized by assigning each processor a subset of the primitive in the scenes. Rasterization usually is parallelized by assigning each processor a portion of the pixel calculations. The essence of the rendering task is to calculate the effect of each primitive on each pixel. Due to the arbitrary nature of the modeling and weaving transformations, a primitive can fall anywhere on or off the screen. Thus, we can view rendering as a problem of sorting primitive to the screen, as noted by Sutherland, Sproul, and Schumer in their seminal paper on visible surface algorithms. Sort first. The aim in sort first is to distribute primitives early in the rendering pipelines during the geometric processing to processors that can do the remaining rendering calculations. We can do this by dividing the screen into disjoint regions and making processors responsible for all rendering calculations that affect their respective screen regions. Initially, we assign primitives to renders in some arbitrary fashion. When rendering begins, each rendered does enough transformation to determine into which regions each primitive falls, generally computing the screen space bounding box of the primitive. We call this pre-transformation, and it may or may not involve actually transforming the primitive. In some cases, primitives will fall into the screen regions of renders other than the one on each which they reside. These primitives must then be redistributed over an interconnect network to the appropriate rendered, which then perform the remainder of the geometric processing and the rasterization calculations for these primitives. Sort middle. In sort middle, primitives are redistributed in the middle of the rendering pipeline between geometric processing and registration. Primitive at this point have been transformed into screen coordinates and are ready for rasterization. Since many systems perform geometry processing and rasterizations on separate processors, this is the natural place to break the pipeline. In a sort middle system, geometry processors are assigned arbitrary subsets of the primitives to be displayed. Rasterizers are assigned a portion of the display screen, generally contiguous region of pixels as shown in sort first. The two processor groups can be separate sets of processors, or they can time share the same physical processor. During each frame, geometry processor transforms light and perform the geometric operations on their portion of the primitive and classify them with the respect to screen region boundaries. Then they transmit all the screen space primitives to the appropriate rasterizer or rasterizers as shown in figure 3. Sort middle is general and straightforward. It has been the most common approach to date for both hardware and software. Parallel rendering systems we will examine its advantage and disadvantages in more detail later. Figure 3 shows sort middle redistributes screen space primitives between geometric processing and rasterization. Sort lost. Sort lost refers sorting until the end of the rendering pipeline offer primitives have been rasterized into pixels, samples or pixel fragments. Sort lost systems assign each processor arbitrary subsets of the primitives. Each renders computes pixel values for its subsets no matter where they fall in the screen. Renders then transmit these pixels over an interconnect network to compositing processors, which resolves the visibility of pixels from each rendering. In sort lost, rendering operate independently until the visibility stage, the very end of the rendering pipeline. The interconnect network, however, the must handle of the pixel data generated on the rendered for interactive or real-time applications rendering high-quality images. This can result in very high data rates. Sort loss can be done in at least two ways. One approach, which we call SL sparse, minimizes communication by distributing only those pixels actually produced by rasterization. The second approach, called SL full, stores and transfers a full image from each render. Both methods have disadvantages as well as we see later. Sort loss systems have existed in various forms for more than 20 years. Figure 4 shows sort lost redistributes pixel sample or pixel fragments during rasterization. Processing and communication model. We now analyze each of the three rendering methods in more detail. The aim is to build a quantitative model of their processing and communication cost to use a basis for comparing them. We first consider the processing required to render on a uniprocessor. Then we evaluate the additional processing and communication requirement of the parallel methods. We focus on the inherent overhead in the method and do not specially modal factors such as load balancing, buffering and transparent delay. Such factors affect performance significantly but depend on the detailed system implementation and the graphics scene itself. We will however discuss these factors where appropriate. See the sidebar for definitions of terms used in the analysis. Frame to frame coherence. If we are rendering a single frame, most primitive will be on the wrong rendered and will require redistribution unless we are very lucky, and C will be close to 1. However, if we rendered several related frames in sequence, we may able to take advantage of frame to frame coherence to reduce overhead. To do this process, that render a primitive during one frame must retain the primitive for the next frame. If there is significant spatial coherence between frame, fewer primitives will require redistribution during the next frame and C will be close to 0. Of course, the application must support retained mode display list rendering, and bookkeeping is needed to track primitive ownership. To get an estimate of C, we have to analyze the traces from two rendering sequences. The rotating head model in the NCGA graphics performance committee's picture level benchmarks, and an architectural walkthrough of a building interior seen through a head mounted display. Towards future system will have to perform at much higher levels than systems of today. Performance needs to scale in at least two ways: increase resolution and increase primitive performance. Increasing screen resolution while leaving the number of primitive constants increases the communication cost, as both versions of sort lost relative to sort first and sort middle. For SL spare, it increases the communication costs for both version of number of pixels covered by each primitive. The overlap factor 0 too small today is a function of NES machines in size increases to 1,000 processors or more. The size of preprocessor regions can get quite small. When this happens, 0 increases eventually, driving the overhead of sort first and sort middle to unacceptable levels. Finally, we have presented the simplest view that redistribution occurs at only one point in the rendering pipeline. Hybrid architecture which exploit trade-offs. Sort lost analysis. Sort lost algorithms are perhaps the most variable of three classes. First, there is the difference between space merging and full frame merging. Space merging takes advantage of the observation that renders in a sort lost system may generate pixels for only a fraction of the screen, and only these pixels need be emerged. 23. Full frame merging take advantage of the fact that merging full frame from each processor is a very regular and can be done using simple hardware. Here we will analyze only two cases: simple space merging and full frame merging, sort lost rendering pipeline, and the additional cost of SL spare and SL full not found in uniprocessor rendering.